Yo, what's going on, guys? And today I want to make an update video to the Atlanta Hawks. And I still believe, in my mind, Alex Sarr is the number one prospect in this class in terms of potential. But I will recognize his boom to bust ratio is probably higher than Zaccharie Risacher. But the Atlanta Hawks are in a precarious position that they need someone who can come in right now. And in the last video, I talked about how Jalen Johnson and Alex Sarr wouldn't necessarily fit because it would force Johnson to eventually either move to the 3 or be a 6th man, or Sarr to start his first few seasons off the bench. And Sarr needs more develop time, and this is a team that, from talking to people who are close with the Hawks, like the Hawks, I have not spoken to anybody within the Hawks. I have not, but I have spoken to people who have spoken with people within the Hawks, and this is a team that it seems like they want DeJounte Murray and Trae Young to work. And if this team is going to avoid the luxury tax, they're probably going to move off DeAndre Hunter, Clint Capella, and if they had to, like, those were the two guys. I doubt they move Bogdan, but like, if those are the two guys that they want to move, DeAndre's definitely one. And if they move DeAndre, okay, you draft Zaccharie. Now you keep DeJounte Murray, Trae Young, Zaccharie. You have Jalen Johnson. I assume you trade Clint and you started Onyeka finally. And right there you have a big lineup next to Trae Young with a 6'4", 6'5" shooting guard, combo guard, point guard, and DeJounte Murray. Trae Young at point. You got Zaccharie, Zachary's a 6'8". Eventually could probably be a combo forward. Right now he's a pure wing. Who's a decent rebounder, but he's kind of offensively, I don't see him ever being better than Cam Johnson. I know some people are saying, oh, he could be a Michael Porter Jr. I don't think he's in that Kyle Kuzma, Michael Porter Jr., Cam Johnson mold, but offensively, he's Cam Johnson. And he's a better rebounder and defender than Cam, but he's skinny, and he's going to be able to produce at day one, I think, similar to how Keegan Murray was able to produce before. I've heard one person say that Zaccharie is Harrison Barnes, and I think that's a very good comparison. So I think, again, he's a guy who's going to be able to come in and produce. It's not going to be anything, I think, spectacular to start, and I think he'll be a very steady contributor and improver through his career, a progressor in terms of development through his career, and he just fits the timeline that the Hawks need right now. And that's why the Hawks, I think, will draft Mr. Zaccharie over Alex Sarr. So that's my 2 cents on that one at the current start of this. So I'm going to play the rest of the original video, what I made for who I thought the Atlanta Hawks were going to draft. But that was when I thought Alex Sarr, again, Jalen Johnson, they really believe he can be an all-star, so he needs to be the 4. Drafting Alex Sarr doesn't allow that. Drafting Zaccharie allows them to do that. And I think they want DeJounte and Trae to work. And then if they draft Zaccharie, they can trade DeAndre Hunter. If you think about it, it's DeAndre Hunter and Clint Capella, that's $38 million. You call up a team, for example, maybe like the Brooklyn Nets, and you say, hey, give us your late first-round pick and Dorian Finney-Smith, and we'll give you a couple seconds in these guys, and maybe throw on Deron Sharp in there. And now you have Deron Sharp and Dorian Finney-Smith as part of your rotation. You just clear out, you're saving $18 million. That's just something off the top of the head. But the rest of the video is going to be when I thought Alex Sarr was there. I just want to hear what side you guys want to choose. Let me hear in the comment section if you vote this far to the video. Would you draft Alex Sarr or Zaccharie? I still think Alex Sarr, like people said last year, with Brandon Miller, 6'8" archetype, This is the 7'1" archetype, that Evan Mobley, Jaren Jackson Jr. archetype that people love.
So I've done these series before, and I recorded the video a few days ago, and I'm gonna release it today. But I talked about people that the Hawks could potentially draft, and I've said the whole time it's Alex R. You don't pass up on a guy who has that mold of a 7'1" who could be, like an Evan Mobley, Jaren Jackson Jr.-esque defender. And yeah, the rest of the video is going to be what I previously recorded, but it's expected he's going to be taken, and they're probably not going to trade the pick.
Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we're going to be talking about who will, yes, the Atlanta Hawks drafts. Right now, according to Hoops Hype's NBA draft predictor, we have, because if you guys didn't know, I work at Hoops Hype, but what we have as our number one predicting, there's an 87.9% chance that the Hawks take Alex Sarr. There's a 4.3% chance they take Nikola Topic, and there's a 2.8% chance they take Zaccharie Risacher. And Donovan Clingan has 0.5% and 0.4% for Mateus Buzelis. Now, I know this is a young front office, so a lot of people were saying you could expect the unexpected, as well as the fact that the Atlanta Hawks were at Zaccharie Risacher's attention, not his attention, at his game, and I have compared him to a mix of Michael Porter Jr. and Cam Johnson with more defense. I personally think right here, you get Alex Sarr because he fits perfectly next to what you have in Onyeka Okongwu, and then it makes it easier to build a team by having Alex Sarr. It kind of, the whole thing where people get, okay, the defense with Trae Young, let me say this. We'll talk about, so the two guys they're probably deciding between, I don't know why we have Topic as the second option. I don't believe Topic is like in contention for the number one overall pick. As much as I love Nikola Topic, and I think he's one of the most underrated players in this draft, I think it's between Zaccharie Risacher and Alex Sarr. Now, Zaccharie I think they take Zaccharie if they do trade if they do trade Trae Young and they want to be a playoff team right now, they'll take Zaccharie, if that's what they truly believe. But if they want to keep Trae Young and they want to keep DeJounte Murray and give this an actual go, even though the numbers show it does not work, you take Alex Sarr. You remember last year, people were saying, oh, Brandon Miller's the archetype, that Paul George, 6'8", athletic two-way player that you don't pass up, and that's why people were saying he was going to be the second overall pick over Scoot Henderson, and which rightfully so in hindsight. But people, including myself, were saying, well, Scoot's been hyped up as like this generational talent. Shouldn't he be there? And, but Brandon Miller, again, ended up there because he is that archetype. My personal belief is Alex Sarr is another guy. I literally met Alex Sarr. You guys saw the interview. I've been by him when he's staying. Alex Sarr is a massive human, 7'1". His numbers, you're gonna say, well, his numbers aren't impressive. He played off the bench role as a reserve, all right. But his ability to cover ground, switch out onto the perimeter as an inside and outside defender, arguably being able to guard 3 through 5, maybe even. He basically has Evan Mobley, Jaren Jackson-esque defensive tendencies and instincts and abilities with that type of versatility, be a shot blocker. And then offensively, he's shown the ability to be a 3-level guy where worst comes to worst, he doesn't develop an offensive shot, and he's similar to being an offensive player as Evan Mobley with maybe a little bit less skill. And if it does work out, maybe he becomes a 3-point shooter who is closer to a Jaren Jackson Jr. And again, with Trae Young, the whole thing is the defensive liability. You now would have a starting, because they're going to probably trade Clint Capella, you now would have a front court of Onyeka Okongwu, because Alex Sarr is not a good rebounder, and I don't think he ever will be. It's just not his thing. And by having, our guy Alex Sarr next to Onyeka Okongwu, you have the rebounding concerns, fixed, and you have two guys inside. And we saw Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, what they were able to do. I'm not saying that these two guys are going to do that, but it can work. And then you put DeAndre Hunter's probably going to be traded. And if you bring back Saddiq Bey and you keep Bogdan and you turn DeAndre Hunter into a guy that I don't know whose contract you could turn DeAndre Hunter into that would be cheaper and be a two-way version. But the idea is that getting a guy like Sar and then finding, being a, because they basically overpaid DeAndre Hunter, and by basically having DeJounte Murray, Trae Young, Alex Sar, and Onyeka Okongwu, and then a rotation of wings like Bogdan, like Mr. I guess you would say keep Saddiq Bey if you can, and you still have Kobe Buff getting off the bench. You have Jalen Johnson, who's probably going to be able to, he will probably be your small forward, even though he's more of a power forward. You would hope that he could maybe play some small forward. And then you have all those concerns about defensively, I think can be fixed. And again, if you can turn DeAndre Hunter into like a Keldon Johnson, maybe even a Harrison Barnes, just to be cheaper and because you can get off that money quicker, or get I wouldn't go for Rui Hachimura, but maybe a Dorian Finney-Smith, or I think that's pretty much it. I don't see anybody else that would really like catch my eyes in terms of, would be a game changer if they brought him in. But yeah, or a Matisse Thybulle package with who else is on that roster that you could ask for. I mean, if you could turn your contracts of Clint Capella and freaking DeAndre Hunter, which is like $38 million, into Matisse Thybulle and Malcolm Brogdon, I would not be mad. TBH. But Zaccharie Risacher, let's say they do trade Trae Young. All right. Now let's say they get 3 first-round picks from the Lakers, and the deal would probably be Rui Hachimura, and I believe the deal would have to be Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, and potentially, I think, because the salary floor is like 141, the luxury cap's at 171, they're already at $178 million. So, okay, yeah, so it'd be Gabe Vincent, Reeves, and Hachimura would probably be the deal. And right there, you would definitely be able to just get by, in my opinion, you trade that, you get 3 first-round picks, you send, Trae Young there, you trade, Clint Capella to a team maybe like Memphis or New York, and you get another pick there. Now your cap has been lowered, and you have a bit more floor spacing. Rui Hachimura is maybe your power forward, and you don't have a small forward anymore because maybe you also trade DeAndre Hunter, and you want to contend though, because you have all these like multi-year deals, and you kind of want to be in the situation where you have the flexibility to keep improving. You kind of want to be the New York Knicks, basically, when you have Zaccharie be like a media contributor, either as like a 6-man role or off the bench, or as a starter next to Rui and Zaccharie are your like forwards, and then you have your big being Onyeka, and then you have DeJounte, and then you keep Bogdan, or you go out and get other contracts that fit your team, and you've retooled instead of going necessarily a rebuild. Because I do think if they get Sar, I know this year was technically the gap year, but I mean, Sar could really be like Derek Lively for them, and could maybe help them be a playoff team. But who knows? I think that's the whole thing they're deciding.